Hello everyone, this is Boricua Binks and welcome back to Let's Play Seduce Me to the Demon War. It's been quite a while since I've played this game. I needed a little break because I was focusing on my other LPs. But now that Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations is done, I can get back to this wonderful game. So in the last episode, we got a wonderful ending with our beloved James. And it was a really interesting, good story, good fight going on between James, Diana, and that angel. Since I was actually pretty shocked that the Demon Lord was not a big bad like I thought he was. I mean, he was like 1, 2, 3 dead. But yeah, we got a pretty good ending. So I'm pleased. But now I will be pursuing a different route. When I'm done with this LP, after this route, of course I will play through on my own and see the other routes just to see what it's like. But the only one who I think will be very different would be if I pursue Diana instead of another one of the guys. So let's see what's gonna happen.
Hold on there! Before you start the game, I need to ask you a few things. Don't want you getting lost now.
Okay.
First of all, have you read the first
Okay,
story?
yes.
Oh, okay. You do know this is Diana's route, right? The Succubus princess that tried to bring the boys back to the demon world?
Yes.
Oh, awesome! Alright then. Diana's a very interesting character, huh?
Yes, she is. And I find it interesting how even though we were not even in her route, the game was mostly focused on her. So that was interesting.
Anyway, I have one last question for you. Some people like hearing the trigger warnings before they start games, while others don't really care and just want to play. It's cool either way, but do you want to know about some of the content listed in the game?
I believe I already showed you guys before, so I don't think we need to hear it again. Nah, I'm good.
Alright then. Oh, just so you know, though, anytime you have the choice to have sex, you can totally say no and still get the good endings. Consent is very important, regardless of who you are.
That's good to know. Last time, I think I went through with it, but I just cut out anything that I was like worried might be too risque for you guys or for YouTube. I could probably just skip it this time. I don't know. We'll see.
I think that should be everything. All right. Phew, that took a while.
You forgot something.
Did we? Or did we see this? Okay. A Queen's Understanding. Alright. I think I was using my other name that I like to use. Jackie, correct? Here we go! I was in love with a succubus. It was true. I had fallen for the charms of a succubus, and I was about to dive head first into the demon world with her to save her kingdom? Wait, what? Did we miss something? Okay, I guess we didn't miss anything. It's like picking up right where we left off with the last game, maybe?
Do you have any regrets?
None. I smiled as Diana held me in her arms and carried us both through the night sky. So in this one, we're not being kidnapped by the demon lord and sent to the other world. We're just choosing to go with her. That makes sense. We had shared a sweet kiss, the first of hopefully many in the future, and were about to cast a spell to enter the demon world. Diana looked to the ground that was far below us and pointed her free hand down towards it, closing her eyes.
Revetar tenebras, lirato locum, pater portas.
As the last word left her mouth, a large purple pentagram appeared in the grass before twisting and becoming a black void. I gripped onto Diana, scared at what I was seeing.
Last chance.
I gulped at the sight, not sure of what to make of this. Was this really what I wanted to do? My curiosity, however, guided my decision and forced me to take a deep breath. I closed my eyes and let calm wash over me before looking at Diana. Let's go. Diana smiled and wrapped both arms around me, laying a protective hand over my head. You know what I was thinking right now? Because I was really disappointed in the last time I played this game, how there was no CGs of like the main character with James, right? It was just CGs of James or whatever. But now that I'm thinking about it, it might even be that for this game they wanted the players to be more like, oh, this is my story, not this girl's character, right? So maybe that's why we never got to see her in the dress, and we never got to you know, see CGs of her. So that would make sense. But it's also kind of disappointing because I'm like, oh, I want to see cute moments of them together, but well. Can't please everybody. Did I say this? Sorry. Diana smiled and wrapped both arms around me, laying a protective hand over my head.
Hang on.
I tightened my grip on Diana, obeying her command. As I held tight, I felt air quickly begin to rush past our bodies as Diana tilted back and began to let us fall towards the ground. Was she insane? I looked at Diana, seeing her smirk at me before closing her eyes. I did the same, naturally preparing for an impact with the ground. What I felt was a cool rush of energy brushing over my skin, as if I had fallen into water. I slowly opened my eyes and found myself staring into a vast, dark space, holding on to a woman who was no longer wearing clothes. Oh, because yeah, she is like that. I was clinging to a woman who had no clothing, but instead had purple marks across her skin and horns adorning her head. However, I could tell that this woman was still Diana just by looking into her eyes. Diana smiled at me and kissed my forehead before tightening her hold onto me and muttering softly.
Adlilith Castra.
I held onto her body as I felt us begin to move through the space, as if a giant fan had pushed us forward. Onward we continued through the darkness, with me unsure of where we were going, and Diana guiding the way. We began to slow, and soon a small light appeared, slowly growing as we got closer to it. I had to shut my eyes as it began to consume us. I felt weightless. I couldn't feel anything except the woman in my arms, and it felt somehow exquisite. I wanted to drown in this feeling, become lost in it. However, our journey through the light was coming to an end. The light around us faded away, and soon I found myself lying on Diana as she lay on a stone floor. The air, however, smelt of fire and blood. I looked up, seeing fire everywhere in sight. What the hell? This was the demon world? Or are we seeing a vision again of what happened to Diana's family?
Isager!
Oh. A loud shout forced me to look over and see a man running at me with a spear and a rage-filled expression. I screamed and rolled off of Diana, scooting away to avoid being skewered. As he continued towards me, I screamed,
No!
I looked up to see Diana kneeling in front of me and gripping the man's spear, pointing it away from her. The man stared wide-eyed at Diana as she glared back.
My lady, you live?
Oh.
Of course I do. I told you I would return, and thus I have.
The man gave a small sigh of relief, lowering his weapon and propping it up to lean against it. As I examined him now that he wasn't gunning for me, he was wounded and exhausted, panting heavily and gripping his spear tightly.
I'm so glad.
Ah, he's still in love with her, of course. As he finally toppled over, Diana gasped and rushed over, kneeling beside him. So what are we gonna do if she's with us in this time? It's gonna be interesting. Like, I feel kind of bad that we're taking her away from him.
Settle!
I rushed over as well, wanting to see what was going on. Who was he? Why did he attack me? Why was the room on fire?
Sano, what happened?
We were attacked by the Demon Lord. He took advantage of your absence.
I began to cough violently. We needed to get out of this room, wherever we were. Still, I can't remember when I played Diana's route in the first game, what happened with the boys. Like, did they go back to the demon world? Did they stay in the human world? What happened? Because I know we weren't romantically involved, but I thought we could at least be friends, you know? So I wonder if we're even going to see them at all in this route. Diana, we need to get out of here. Diana nodded and grabbed my hand and Sero's, chanting under her breath. The room around us began to shift, as if it were changing instead of us moving. Soon we were outside a castle, staring at it as flames erupted from each window. What was happening? Oh, that's the outside of her castle. Wow. Diana's face was of pure shock, staring at the castle in absolute terror. All of the color, besides for the purple marks on her skin, had faded to a pale white in horror.
We drove them back, but the flames are too powerful.
At that moment, something in Diana's eyes changed. Her anger sparked and she stood, quickly walking around us and towards the castle. Diana!
Come! I command thee, white winds! Crush these fires beneath your hands!
I stared as the wind in the air quickly began to pick up, and a purple glow began to surround Diana's body. It was like a storm was rushing towards us, but there was no rain or thunder, just wind. The winds forced back the flames that danced in the windows, and smoke began to rise from each one, signaling the death of the fire. The windows continued to be filled with wind and air, most likely to kill the flames deep within the walls. I, however, could only stare at Diana. Her body was rigid, and her gaze was intently focused on the stone castle. Soon the winds began to die out, and all that was left was smoke rising from the windows into the dark purple and black sky.
You did it. How?
'Cause she's freaking strong, man. Diana looked to Cero, intensity still embedded in her eyes.
Where are the king and queen?
Oh. Oh no. Okay. So because this is taking place directly after the first game, like with the first game I think there was like a few years time gap with the other route because I had years to be with James and blah blah blah, right? But this one looks like we came back just in time and looks like we're gonna find her parents dead here, right? Oh, that's so sad. I heard Sero's breath hitch, and I turned to look at him. He had a look of pure pain and guilt. What had happened? Diana walked over and stared down at him, now almost glaring daggers at him as she clenched her fists at her sides.
Speak, Sano!
Oh, this is going to be so heartbreaking.
The imp demons. While we were fighting the flames in the army, the imp demons snuck through our defenses.
My heart, despite not fully understanding the situation, began to tighten. Something was incredibly wrong. Cero shut his eyes as a pair of demons I assumed to be allies rushed over and began casting magic over his body, closing his wounds.
They snuck into their room.
Diana suddenly turned and bolted towards the castle, causing me to jump up. Diana! I began to sprint after her, following her inside the castle and trying to keep up with her. Her panicked breath kept me following her direction, despite her fast twists and turns through the ashy corridors.
No.
Oh no. I could hear Diana sobbing, praying as she ran. I did my best to keep up, not wanting to lose her and not wanting her to be alone right now. We turned into a long hallway that had a pair of golden doors at the end. They were unscathed, as if the flames had not disturbed the door, or perhaps the room behind it.
Please be alive. Please!
Diana bolted for the doors and began to pull them open. grunting at the weight. I stopped running, skidding forward from the abrupt stop. Whomever she wanted alive, I hoped that they were as well. As the doors finally opened, however, the foul stench of blood erupted from behind them, the scent filling my nostrils. Gah! Diana flung the doors wide open and could only stare at the sight we both saw. Blood. Blood covered the walls, the floor, the walls, the ceiling. The entire room was painted in gore, skin, bone, and massive amounts of blood. Ugh, here we go. This is what the trigger warnings were, guys, so be careful for this part. Only 3 things, barely coated in red, stood in the middle of the room on the ground. 2 broken crowns and a small tiara that was barely large enough to fit a newborn's head. That's so sad.
No.
Diana slowly walked into the room, the blood on the ground painting her bare feet, and she fell to her knees in front of the items, staring down at them. I couldn't bring myself to enter the room with her. I watched as she lifted them to her chest, curling her shoulders over herself and shaking almost violently.
Father. Mother. Audibel.
As she continued to grieve over the ornaments in her hands, a dark, almost deadly and evil-looking aura surrounded her body. It was creepy. They began to flicker and grow, like a dark flame that wanted to engulf the room she knelt in. As it reached an apex and began to violently flicker through the room around her, Diana arched back and screamed to the ceiling, her voice heavily laced with magic, pain, and rage.
I'll kill you!
Wow. That must have been something else to voice act for. Watching her body burn in the intense black and purple flame-like energy made my heart stop in fear. I had never seen her like this, and I was scared as to where her anger would drive her next. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh no. I'm not sure if I have a right to stop her from feeling what she's feeling right now. But I'm also like kind of worried that if I let her continue, she'll get that madness that she started showing signs of in the other route. I guess stop her. Don't want her to continue. As heartbreaking as the situation was, I couldn't let anger consume her. Not like this. If she wanted to vent her rage, then it was better to aim it at the ones who wronged her. Not let it burn in the room where her family died. Oh, I hope I did the right thing here. I stepped into the room, blocking the waves of energy from my face with my arms, and eventually made my way to the screaming Diana. Diana! My words couldn't reach her. I stepped closer, almost towering over her, before dropping to my knees, bracing myself and wrapping my arms around Diana. Her screaming stopped, and her body froze within my arms. Diana quaked like a shivering child in my arms as I pressed my forehead against her hair. Diana, we'll get your revenge, but you must save that rage for the fight. I was met with silence as my reply. After a moment, Diana finally slumped into my arms while the energy around her died out.
You're right.
Diana and I left the room with her unable to turn around and look back. We walked through the ashy corridors of the castle, Diana silenced by the sight and by her own grief. My heart was heavy for her. Still, the demon lord who had done this was still a threat at large, and who knew when he would return? Diana led the way to a room, which, as expected, was as burnt as could be. However, Diana waved her hand through the air, casting some sort of silent spell. Ah, familiar room. Through some sort of prestidigitation, the ash and soot in the room vanished, and the furniture and decor were repaired. We at last stepped in with Diana slowly lying down on the bed, unable to carry on any further. Looking at Diana's face, her eyes were puffy and red, while her skin almost became void of any color beyond the taint of her demon marks. If she wasn't breathing, one would assume that she was dead. Diana stared at the ceiling, a world of emotion swimming in her eyes. Despite what had happened, at last she spoke.
I need to send you back.
What? Now was not the time to think about me, and I knew it. Besides, I came here for a reason. I wasn't going to go back knowing that Diana needed support. I had no regrets in coming here, and I would help her through this. No, Diana.
It's too dangerous here.
I don't care, Diana. Diana sat up slowly and looked to me, a form of weak anger in her eyes. However, she knew that it was fruitless to argue with me. After all, she made a deal with me, and I could see the obligation to obey buried behind her anger. Diana closed her eyes and lowered her head.
The Demon Lord will most likely return.
And we'll be ready for him. I gently took Diana's hand and lifted her chin so that she had to look at me. The anger that was plaguing her melted into sadness and broken hope as she stared back into my gaze. There were remnants of rogue tears adorning her face, and seeing her so scarred made me frown. I knew that we would get through this. We just needed to rest for now. We would deal with the issues this world brought after.
My lady?
Diana and I turned our heads to see Seto by the open door, and I stepped away from Diana, giving her space. Behind him, multiple soldiers, servants, and other demons rushed down the hall, most likely to check for other issues and possibly try to fix the damage on the castle.
Yes, Zero?
Who is this human?
Ah, he's probably been dying to ask. For a brief moment, I could see a look of disdain in his eyes as he looked to me. However, it only lasted a second as he looked to Diana, waiting for her to reply to him. This is awkward. Oh, just little old me. I swear I'm not trying to steal your woman from you. Cough.
Zero, this is my guest. She came back with me too.
This is my guest. Instead of Jackie. Nice. Well, I mean, she couldn't have dubbed every single name that they could put. Diana looked to me, trying to find the words in my eyes. What was I to her? My curiosity bubbled as I also awaited the completion of her answer.
She came to aid me in this war.
Yeah, I can't really say we're friends. Well, we did. Are we lovers? I don't know.
But what of your fiancé? What of the other sons?
Ah, them.
They are gone. They have disappeared into the human world, and I can no longer trace them. I have failed.
The guilt and grief in Diana's voice deepened, most likely reminding herself that she saw the result of failing moments ago. Zero, however, stepped up to Diana and knelt in front of her, surprising me. What was he doing? He was a guard, first off. Why was he being bold enough to step to her? He's a little more than just a guard.
You didn't fail, my lady. The Demon Lord attacked us despite giving us his word that he would wait for you to return. He broke his end of the agreement.
He's an a-hole.
I know.
Staring at Diana and Zero, I could see that they had a very close and deep connection. Was Zero a friend, or was he something more? I could recognize the emotions within Zero's eyes as he looked up at Diana. He looked to be in love with her, or at least had some form of ultimate care for his lady. Zero gently took one of Diana's hands and placed his lips upon it. Instantly, I could almost see energy flow from his body into hers from the kiss alone. Was this how energy transferal worked when you weren't the giver or receiver? The color in Diana's skin returned, and she let out a sigh with her body relaxing at last. Zero, however, continued to keep his lips over her hand. Something in my gut irked me about him. Oh, snap! Jealousy? Oh, dear. Ah, do we let him continue? Ooh. If we let him continue, I feel like we'd be, pretty much saying, go ahead, you can have her. Shoot. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I feel like if I clear my throat, that's me saying, she's mine. But if I let him continue, does that mean, oh my god, does that mean that we could have OT3? That's like in the back of my mind, like, oh, that'd be awesome. OT3. Ah, okay, you know what? We will continue this in the next episode. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this, and until next time, have a nice day. Bye!